Good evening. Polling now consistently shows that over 70% of you think that Britain is broken. Well, I tell you what, today was another day that really proved that. After the huge row about Kabatu, remember the man that sexually assaulted the 14-year-old girl in Essex after his accidental release, today we had the most farcical Prime Minister's questions I think I've ever seen. Bear in mind that the PM has gone to Brazil for the COP summit, so it was the Deputy PM, David Lammy, against Conservative Jane Cartledge. Just have a little look at what went on.
Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
Of course I apologise, and I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask him the question again. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a very specific question for him to answer.
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
I know I'm the Justice Secretary, that's why I'm at the dispatch box, also as Deputy Prime Minister.
Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
I've got to tell you, I spent 14 years in opposition, and I did a hell of a lot better than he's just done.
Since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison. Can he answer the question?
I'm looking forward to being up against the member for Newark next time.
And now here's the farce. Cartledge knew all along there had been an accidental release from Wandsworth this morning. The Deputy Prime Minister knew there'd been an accidental release that had taken place from HM Prison Wandsworth and had a pre-prepared statement. Yet, even though they had parliamentary privilege, we went through this complete and utter farce. In fact, Nigel Nelson of this manor said to me in all the decades he's watched PMQs, he's never seen anything worse. And then at 12:34, the official news story was broken, and Cartledge then, as a point of order, gets up and says this.
Speaker, just to be clear, the Telegraph are reporting that a police manhunt has been launched for a second asylum seeker mistakenly freed from prison. The question is, Mr. Speaker, can you advise me on how I can ask the Justice Secretary whether he was aware of this when I asked him about it repeatedly in Prime Minister's question?
Well, there we are. And you wonder why people don't really follow Parliament anymore. What a complete and utter farce. But we learnt at 12:34 from the Telegraph that a 24-year-old Algerian man had been wrongly freed from HM Prison Wandsworth, wait for this bit, on Wednesday of last week. So why the gap? Why didn't the police know in that intervening period of time? The prison service did not alert the police for 6 days. This guy's been out there for 6 days. He's a sex offender, for goodness sake.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just living credit. Whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, You need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward. And that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
And if that wasn't bad enough, we then go on to learn that on Monday of this week, 35-year-old William Smith, on the very day that he was sentenced to 45 months in prison for multiple fraud, has also been released from HM Prison Wandsworth. You literally couldn't make it up. What better example could there possibly be of broken Britain? I don't even know what question to ask you, but please give me some thoughts. Tweet hashtag Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. Well, I am very pleased to say that joining me down the line is Ian Akerson, Senior Advisor at the Counter-Extremism Project, and, here's the crucial bit, folks, former Head of Security at HM Prison Wandsworth. Ian, what the hell is going on?
Well, good evening, Nigel. Can I just hastily add, I was Head of Security at Wandsworth back in the mid-90s when we were actually in charge of the prison, not the state that it's in at the moment. I think, first of all, it's rather interesting that the Metropolitan Police statement has said that they were informed by HM Prison and Probation Service of this release in error 6 days later. What we don't know is when the Prison Service actually knew this release in error had taken place. And, you know, there's quite a lot of distance between informed and knew about. And I'm just wondering, given the calamity of this second release and the extent of the security failure, I'm just wondering, did they know beforehand? And was there a desperate, panicked, operation in place to try to get this place back into custody before it broke into the media again? I don't think David Lammy covered himself in glory at all at the dispatch box. He hasn't conducted himself properly in relation to the first release in error of Kibatu, when he seemed to lose his temper, and he did the same thing again. And look, people are entitled to be, ordinary people, aghast at these repeated security failures and expect accountability to come from the government. And we haven't seen that. We've seen a degree of obfuscation, frankly. And I think David Lammy is, to be frank, Nigel, is discovering what many of his predecessors have discovered in relation to His Majesty's Prison and Probation Services. When you're the political head of that organisation and you try to pull the levers of power to get something done, you actually find that all the cables have been cut. If this disaster was going to happen anywhere at all in Britain after the release in error of Kibatu, it would have happened at HMP Wandsworth. 20-minute car ride from headquarters, a prison in free fall, in plain sight, in absolute chaos for years, with nothing being done to fix it, with a very large population of foreign national offenders. It would have happened there, and it did.
Yeah, I see the numbers now. I mean, it's 266 people have been wrongly released over the course of the last year. That's up 128%. But clearly, I take your comments on David Lammy, I take your comments on political accountability, but clearly they also inherited something that was already broken.
Well, there's absolutely no question about that. The prison service has been gutted of experience and personnel for years since austerity measures, absolutely criminally stupid austerity measures, removed 20% of the headcount of the prison service as the prison population remained static and then started to rise. They took all the experience out. And one of the things about Wandsworth that's quite interesting is after Khalife escaped, the prison service internally conducted a security audit review of Wandsworth Prison. And some of those results were leaked to the media, and it discovered that 81 separate failures in safety and security had occurred to allow the escape of a terror suspect. And that included things like inadequate staffing, inexperienced staffing, staff asleep at their posts, staff looking at their phones instead of what was in front of them. So you're describing a prison, again, 20 minutes away from prison service headquarters, population 5,500 bureaucrats, where if you wanted to be sure that the disaster of Kibatu's release and the reputational disaster that happened was not going to happen again, you would be absolutely focused on places like HMP Wandsworth. And I've got to say to you, the fact that this didn't happen actually reflects on the boss class, the officials at the top of the prison service. I was just looking today at an organogram, Nigel, of the prison service. It's got directors general, it's got directors of operation, it's got area executive directors coming out of its ears, it's got prison group directors, it's got a director of executive director of transforming delivery, executive director of standards. Why does it take the accident of either an inspection that damns the place or something like this hitting the headlines to get these people to do their jobs? That's what David Lammy should be asking, instead of allowing a lowly officer or operational support grade to go onto the bus for this.